سر همبندی، حق بازی، یه چند وقتی انسان میتواند یک کاری رو پیش ببرد، ولی این کار دائمی نمیتواند باشد. چنته هر کسی که تو خالی باشد بالاخره معلوم شد.
Good evening, everyone. I'm here with Stefan and Masha, one of my good friends, two of my good friends. They're from Jewish community in Canada, and they had. I've noticed such a strong support for Iranians in the last demonstration to support Iranian people inside Iran. It's my pleasure to be with you guys. Thank you so much for accepting my invitations. So I want to start with Masha. Masha. First of all, I'd like to thank you very much. You've been to every single event to support Iranian people, and I've seen you, and I really appreciate that. I mean, you're very active in social media to support us, and that's extremely important to Iranian people. Like for the recent movement that Iranian people we've been boycotted, we've been silenced. Even the narrative of Iranian movement is been distorted, but Jewish community, they're standing strong with Iranian people, and I like to appreciate the friendship. So, Masha, let's start with that. How do you see this protest? What do you see? How do you feel about Iranian movement in the last couple of months? Let's talk about the focus on the last couple of months.
Actually, if I may, I want to take us a bit more backwards, because I want to thank your community, the Iranian community in Vancouver and worldwide, for actually standing with us since October 7, because what happened on October 7 was a complete shock, both in how horrible the event itself was in Israel, but also the reaction in the world, and specifically here in Vancouver, because on October 8, there was a huge crowd celebrating it in the Vancouver Art Gallery. And what I did notice in the very first pro-Israel rallies after October 7, that there were not only Israeli flags there, and there were flags that, and I admit and apologize, I didn't know what flags these are. So I came up to the people who held the flags and I asked them, and they said, well, we are Iranian and we support you. We face the same enemy. And back then I was so heartbroken from everything that's going on that it was one of the small pieces that gave me a little bit of hope. And I am very grateful for that. And when I started posting those photos on my social media, my Israeli friends were asking me, like, what are those flags over there? Because especially if you don't see the entire flag, you see just green, white, and red. People get a little bit nervous. Are those Palestinian flags? They don't look quite the same.
That's true.
It's an Iranian flag from before the revolution, and these are the people of Iran who stand with us. So it was super, super motivating and supportive for our people worldwide, because we've seen those both in Europe and in the States. So thank you very much. And over those 2 years, I think the Iranian people came to many of our rallies here. And we both understand that we actually are facing the same enemy, because the Islamic regime is the sponsor of the terrorists that attacked Israel on October 7, and they're doing the very same thing to their own people, as we see. So it is just the continuing of the same battle, and all of us will be much better off when this regime is finally done.
Absolutely. Like, one thing that we have in common, we have the same enemy. If we feel like the enemies of Iranian people are the same as enemies of Israeli people. And that's how brought these two communities together, and they made us they created like a very, very valuable friendship between these two communities, at least in Vancouver, and I can see it all around the world. When I see the demonstration in Sweden, in Europe, all around the world, we see like Iranian and Israeli people, they come together because they feel like they have the same enemy. Stefan, how do you see this friendship? Where is this coming from?
Well,
In your
I
mind?
would definitely echo Masha's sentiments there. October 7th was such a wake-up call for us as the Jewish people in the diaspora. But what strikes me now is the isolation of the Iranian people. That isolation was similar to the loneliness that we felt after October 7th.
Mm-hmm.
We just felt very alone, and then the reaction of the world that we were actually responsible, and that that we started to get all this hate, and then to have, as Masha said, to have these Iranian friends come and said, "We understand you. You don't have to worry. We're with you." That meant the world to us, and so I've been going since October 7th, and the Iranian pro-Shah people coming out for our events. I've been going to theirs, and they're just a strong group that has such heart. They believe so much in what they're doing, and I resonated with that. And as I shared with you as we were having coffee yesterday, my background lends itself to that sympathy of being persecuted. So I really see quite a bit going on with the Iranian people now, where it's not just a couple of bad people versus a couple of good people. It really is a whole system. It's a whole society that's oppressing the good people of Iran. And that kind of system against a group of people is very similar to what happened in the Second World War with the Shoah, with the Holocaust for us. So my father was a survivor, and he survived because he was a twin. And in 1944, he ended up in Auschwitz. And he survived because he was a twin. And so that inheritance I understand, and I'm emotionally invested with what's going on with the Iranian people right now, because I can feel how they're being persecuted. And I was thinking today, okay, assume there was 40,000 people killed in the last few days, last week or two. That's 33 October 7th. We had 1,200 Israelis murdered and butchered in such a heinous way, and that's exactly what's happened to your people, but to a multiple of 33. That's just incredible. So I'm very moved. I'm very upset. I'm very heartbroken with what's going on.
Yeah. And when you look at the pictures of the victims of October 7th and Iranian protests, and you realize these terrorists, they kill best of the best, like the best, good looking, the kindest, the nicest. And that's really heartbreaking.
Bravest.
The bravest, absolutely. And that really very upsetting. But at the same time, Iranian people, we made a decision, we made a pledge, like Israeli people, what happened after Holocaust, we decided to not forget what happened to us. We decided to not let it happen again. We decided to hopefully prosecute every single person who had even a smallest role in this massacre. And before I jump to Masha, I want to ask Stefan one more question, because he brought in a very good point about Holocaust. Give me some insight about this Iranian new pledge. What do you think about it?
So you were talking about there's some people now, your contacts in Iran, they're using the word genocide, they're using the word Holocaust. And actually, I had a Jewish friend come up to me and say, "Oh, look, the Iranians are now appropriating that word. They're appropriating the Jewish experience." And I actually see it differently. When the Jews were being transported to the concentration camps to their death, they weren't aware they were involved in a Holocaust at that moment. They were just being persecuted. We don't know where this is going with the Iranian people. Mm-hmm. Because of the internet blackout, we don't know how many tens of thousands of people have been butchered in the most heinous way. That persecution, people have to understand. I think the Iranian diaspora understands this very well. But the Persian people are not Arab people. And so this attack on the Persian people, and there's other minorities as well being involved, it is kind of like the kind of insensitivity, the subhumans that you kill. So one group versus another, and it has rhymes with genocide. We don't know if it's a genocide yet. We don't know if it's a Holocaust, but it has the same level of evil.
Same level of evil.
It has the same level of evil, and it really, if it's not a genocide, then it's certainly killing people for what they believe and for what they want. And if they want freedom, if they want Western values, then we need a new word. What happens when we exterminate, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of people who just don't think like us? And I think, as you and I talked a little yesterday, the real war is between the West, Western values, and the Islamic forces in the world, the ones that are radical. So I think
That's true. That's true. Exactly. Okay. So, Masha, you tell me about a bit your background. I know you experienced living in a communist country. Tell me about the journey you took to get in Canada, and then your experience with the oppressive government. Yeah.
Well, just a brief walk through this briefly. I was born actually in the last decade of the Soviet Union, so it wasn't even nearly as oppressive as it is in Iran right now. What happened later, actually, after I left already, because there was some free years, and then the regime became again authoritarian and dictatorial, and the parallel trends that I would like to compare is at some point people were protesting against that regime, and then the regime got violent. So the more people protest, the more violent the regime becomes. Every authoritarian regime does it. And in order to, I'm going to say horrible things right now because but there is no way around it. The freedom doesn't just happen, unfortunately. And unfortunately, the more you let the regime become cruel and strong, the stronger it becomes, the higher is the price for freedom, unfortunately. No, that's why all the external regime changes that, say, the US or the West try to facilitate, they always fail because they have to come from within. You can't just parachute freedom to a society that's not ready. So what the Iranian people are doing right now is something that the Russian people chose not to do in the 2010s, like in the early 10s, while it was still more possible. And this is a heroic sacrifice, and I just hope and pray that it will actually end in freedom sooner rather than later. If the regime succeeds now in defeating the protests, it's going to be more brutal afterwards and even harder to get to freedom. So, sorry, I didn't necessarily answer your question, but these parallels.
What you mentioned is extremely important. The sooner you get rid of this Islamic or any totalitarian regime, the less costly and pricey would it be. So if you let it go on and say nothing, the price to obtain freedom is heavier. I absolutely agree with you. And then how old were you when you went to move to Israel?
I moved to Israel when the Soviet Union was falling apart. So the was already open. So it was in the 1990, and that was around the Gulf War. I'll tell you a funny anecdote.
Okay.
I used to live in Tel Aviv, and there is an empty spot there. I think there is a park now, but when I lived there, it was completely empty and undeveloped. And it's in a very central area, very expensive, fancy area of the city. And it's like just potholes and an empty space. So for a long time, I didn't know what it was. And then someone told me, oh, this was supposed to be an Iranian embassy. So right before the revolution, the Iranians purchased this land, so it belongs to Iran, I suppose, to the monarchy. And then the revolution happened, and all the diplomatic ties got cut off, so no one can do anything with this land. And which took me more on the historical journey of learning that Iran actually was the first country to have relations with Israel from the Middle Eastern countries.
That's right.
when Israel was founded. So it goes a lot deeper than just coming together after October 7. And I think, once again, many people miss on that history beats because, well, just in general, people don't know history much, and I am also guilty as charged. So the ties go way back and even much deeper into history, of course.
But that's a good idea. I hope this beautiful land is still exists. It's
Yeah,
we are hoping to build the most beautiful embassy in that.
so looking forward to it. Yeah,
Looking forward to that one too.
over, and I would love to go to Iran as well, because again, going back to like my Russian sources, I have Russian friends with Russian passports who actually traveled to Iran, and they showed me photos in a decade ago. So, and it is such a beautiful country. And when I looked at the photos, I thought, well, too bad this is a place where I could never go. But now I'm thinking, okay, maybe there is still a chance. So I would really love to, and definitely after Jim Falls, that's a destination.
That's interesting. Like, one thing about like people like you and I, we came from very oppressive regime, like you, like Soviet Union. I myself, it was like crazier ever than Soviet Union, the Islamist communist regime, Islamic Republic. We become politically very active in the countries like Canada. So that's when I decided, for example, to join PPC, and now I'm considering to join 1BC. And then that's how we feel like there is a duty. We've got to fight for freedom. If you let it go, it's never nobody's gonna give you as a gift, oh, here's your freedom, and you've got to fight every single day.
Actually, if I could jump in on that point, that's what frustrates me right now. I'm so angry with the West right now. The voices that should be fighting for freedom all over the world are silent. And I share the outrage that that the Iranian people are struggling to be heard. CNN just went in under the auspices of the regime, and they did this report, which was just terrible. It was just it whitewashed the protests. It made it sound like it was very small and insignificant. And we see the truth starting to come out. The internet is freeing up a bit, I understand, and the images are coming out. I shared with you as on the this documentary that's about 24 minutes long, which is the massacre in Iran, the Kariza morgue. And could you put the link up there for your audience to look at? It's really hard. I wept when I watched it this morning.
Yeah.
We posted it, Masha. It's in the Vancouver Stands with Israel WhatsApp group. You know, looking away doesn't make it go away. That's my mantra now. I mean, these things are happening, and people need to see the evil that others can perpetrate on others. So we take for granted in the West that we will always have freedom, that whatever is happening over there couldn't possibly happen over here. And those who are more politically active can start to see, wait a minute, it is happening here. Censorship and keeping things secret, and the anger of some of these activists on the other side, the pro-Palestinian cohort that's starting to attack people in the street. You heard it, you saw Bondi Beach in Australia. So the West needs to wake up, because this is a civilizational war. So in other words, I was just reading about Khomeini's background. He was a supporter, Khomeini was a supporter of the axis of resistance, because they're framing this as resistance. And you and I talked about this yesterday. How can they be so evil towards the people they're killing? Is because they see this as resistance. They see this as a struggle for their own freedom, and they talk about having the regime supported the Syrian civil war and the Yemeni civil war and Gaza, but they're doing it in such a terrible way. It's based on their doctrines of hate. So maybe we should be talking about that. The Iranian people need to be aware of that. And it's not just a border situation, it's transnational. So this is why many Jewish people realize this and feel so close to what's going on for the Iranians right now. We're one people, really.
We are exactly, and you touched on very good, important point. Like we're looking at the media, we look at all the leftist media, as Elon Musk called them, or like mass coordinated propaganda against freedom fighters. You look at CNN, look at CBC, or like Canadian government funded media, and then how they try to distort the Iranian protest narrative, how they try to distort the conflict in Middle East between Israel and Palestinian narrative, how they're going to touch on very, very very emotional point to create propaganda to just follow certain propaganda, certain political agenda.
Right. They're certainly trying to suppress the reality. A few weeks ago, we had thousands in Vancouver. This will be interesting for your audience. We had thousands of Iranian patriots coming into the streets, and the CBC said there was more than 100, and they were trying to diminish the fact that thousands of people were out there screaming for King Reza Pahlavi. And the CBC just tried to minimize this. And this is the start of what you and Masha have been talking about when you have an oppressive regime. They take away your voice. They take away the news. They try and isolate you. And so your audience should know that.
And even they try to distort the narrative. Like Iranians, they are fighting to get to freedom. They to get rid of something that they're not doesn't have anything to do with Iranian people. The regime is so different from Iranian people, and Iranians like bravely they're fighting hard. But what these media do is to distort the narrative. They say, "Oh, because of food prices, because of gas prices." Oh my God! It's just extremely disappointing, to say the least. How do you think about it? What do you feel about it, Masha?
I want to add to this, and honestly, the only positive spin that I can give it as a Jewish person, I thought that they only hate Jews and only lie about the Jewish issues. But no, apparently here as well, we are in the same boat. I was shocked. I was really shocked to see, which is probably naive of me, how they don't report anything about what's happening in Iran. And even when it's happening in Vancouver, I was deliberately checking, and it was a massive crowd. It was huge. And as my hobby of the last couple of years, I've been to most of the massive protests in Vancouver, the pro-Palestinian, the socialist, you name it. So it was by far the biggest one. I was filming it, and people were walking on this wide Georgia street for 10, 20 minutes, like huge crowd walking. It's endless. I think police estimated it at 18,000. I think there was more.
More, definitely. Yeah.
It was endless. It was enormous. And the way they wrote it is like, oh, there were 11 different protests in Vancouver. So they didn't even focus on the one, because the other ones, okay, fine, they happened, but they are so much like maybe 20 people. So it's incomparable. And they never say Islamic Republic. They never say IRGC. And I mean, Canada did designate IRGC as a terrorist organization back in June 2024, if I remember correctly.
Yeah.
And I'm still shocked to see people waving the Islamic Republic flags. Like, to me, these are related, right? Because
absolutely,
it's the Islamic Republic Guard Corps.
Absolutely. Vancouver is a safe haven for Islamic Republic thugs. If they want to move, if they want to bring money, they want to laundry money, they come here in Vancouver. There are 113. This is RCMP report. They estimated $113 billion every year is laundered here in Canada globally. But I know Islamic Republic has a big share of it, because I mean, it's just so obvious when you see all these money exchanges, like every corner, and they only work with three currencies: Iranian currency, euro, and dollar. and you see like, okay, I have to be suspicious here. I don't want to. I have to be very, very suspicious. Like, why do we have like so many Iranian money exchange locations? Like, why don't we have any Chinese? Why don't we have any Japanese or Indian? Like, specifically, we have Iranian, and that's crazy. That's crazy.
Yes, if you go to West Vancouver, you see all these kiosks for money changing almost every 20 feet. It's crazy. And part of the reason is because you're right, in West Vancouver, one of the largest Iranian communities in, I think, North America, if I'm not mistaken.
That's right.
But we also had the Hezbollah money laundering scheme in the East Coast, I think, with TD Bank, if I remember correctly. So it's not just here in BC, it's everywhere. And same with RTC officials. So that's my key message, probably, if any Canadian people are listening to us who are not Jewish and not Iranians. A lot of people ask, like, oh, why do we care? We are in Canada. That's a foreign conflict. They should go there and fight it out, and we don't care. So you should care because it's here. Like, the regime people are here.
It's
money
exactly here. Yeah.
So it is affecting everyone, even the ones who don't even know it is affecting them. So that's, I think, a very important message that I've been trying to explain. Similarly with the Israel-Palestinian conflict. It's here because we have terrorist organizations that operate in Canada, and they are calling for violence, and they are indoctrinating children in schools. So it is already on Canadian soil, and maybe it's unfortunate, but it is the reality, and we can't keep ignoring it. So we need to learn about it and try to address it.
That's a good point. That's a good point. Yeah.
And it's becoming more visible as well. I mean, we're all recognizing that the Muslim Brotherhood is behind many of these efforts. And you start to connect the dots, and you start to see it's a global movement. And, you start to connect the dots with what's going on in Europe, what's going on with the United States, in, like, say, Dearborn, Michigan, in Texas. And it's here in Canada. And what's interesting is I've heard scholars talk about this, the right-green alliance. And so we do know that the leftists in Canada went to a series of conferences roughly around the time when the Hamas was forming and the Muslim Brotherhood was active in Egypt, and they were called the Egyptian conferences. And so there was those elements indoctrinating all of these leftist movements here in Canada, and they've taken 20, 30, 40 years to finally manifest. And we also see it here in Indigenous activism, which is starting to be very violent. And so we're starting to see more and more. Canadians are still sleeping on this, but we're starting to see more and more violence coming to our city streets. Certainly it's there on our campuses, and even Masha can talk to that, because we were just at an event at UBC, one of the largest universities here in Canada, very well respected, and there's no freedom of speech there. We went to talk about the Indigenous issues that are happening in the interior of the province, and we were met, our small group of 6 people, were met by 300 to 500 protesters. It was crazy.
Crazy. That's crazy. And I read these comments. Some of them I cannot read them because they are written in Israeli alphabet. But that same person that wrote this, she said, Sanjan, my mom is from Isfahan too, because I have Isfahani accent, and everybody knows I'm from Isfahan, Iran. And
so
just
the comment that popped up on the screen said, I'm Israel, hi.
Oh, okay. I'm Israel, hi, same person. Because I'm from Isfahan, and Isfahan, there are a lot of brave people, and they did fight a good fight with Islamic Republic, and that's I'm very proud of Isfahan, Iranian people, and especially the city I was born and grew up, and I'm hoping one day I can go back and see what's going on. It's been almost more than 12 years since I haven't really visited my hometown. So anyways, but that was a good comment, kind of made me emotional. But go ahead, Masha.
It really resonates with me because, for example, my daughter asked me, when are we going to visit Russia? Like, she speaks Russian. We speak Russian at home. That's my mother tongue. And I'm like, we'll wait for the regime to change. That was 12 years ago. And well, we still can't go. And we are still waiting. So it would be nice. And one more thing that I want to add to what Stephen just said about the Red-Green Alliance. It was shocking to me because when the Soviet Union fell apart, I was under the wrong impression that the entire world kind of realized, okay, that was an experiment, a very costly one. It cost us like tens of millions of lives.
Mhm.
It failed, and we are done. Like, all right, everyone understood that communism is bad. And okay, we still have some remainders in North Korea and Cuba, but we all know that it's bad. And anecdotally, right after October 7, I saw a Marxist club here in UBC marching with hammer and sickle banners and Intifada revolution. So the word revolution is very kind of, it brought up memories, but hammer and sickle. And the funny thing, I lived in Canada for 15 years. I never knew the word sickle, and I had to learn it because that's not a word that you use like on your day-to-day in normal.
Right.
But then suddenly all these communist groups started popping up, and so they are very active on campus and everywhere. And I don't understand how people don't learn. Like, we've had so many experiments with communist and socialist countries. And for example, if you look at Venezuela, like, people flee those countries, and Canada and US and whatnot are not perfect, but no one is fleeing the US to go to Venezuela or to go to Cuba. It's not happening.
Yeah.
And same with the Islamic countries. Like, there is no Muslim majority country where people are free and well, maybe they're prosperous because these are
They have a
oil,
lot of oils. Yeah.
but human rights and freedoms, not so much.
Yeah.
So again, we don't see massive immigration from Europe or North America into Muslim majority countries just because, well, I dare say that the system where we have freedoms and human rights is better for people to live and enjoy and thrive.
Mhm.
So it is just really genuinely still shocking to me that, for example, the young Canadians on campuses don't find it in them to observe the world and compare and make conclusions.
Masha, I have a very, very special question from you, and that I think you're the only one can answer this question to me, because you experienced the fall of Soviet Union, and that's one thing that Iranian debating a lot, is that how we can use other nations' experience to not fall into another system. Like, we know exactly what we want, but we are just worried about like how this path like creates a Putin for us. Like, we want to go to the Shah time. We want or constitutional monarchy. The constitutional monarchy is not ideologic system. Everybody can come and go to election and have this parliament, and then the parliament and the monarch, they kind of check and balance each other. So we are very proud of that system, and that was the system that built Iran, like made Iran from ashes to the Pahlavi time in like 1970 1978. Like, Iranian passport was like top 3 most valuable passports in the world. The country was thriving, GDP was amazing, but somehow everything fell. And then Iranian, they don't want, kind of, they are worried that something else might happen here. Although like monarchy movement got the highest support and everything. And so I'm gonna ask you that question. Like, what was your experience? Like, the Soviet Union fell, and you had some freedom for like 2-3 years, and Putin came along, and there was another craziest, even crazier regime started to operate. But before that, think about it. I'm gonna ask you that, but I'm gonna ask Stefan now. Stefan, like as Masha mentioned, uh, like communist regimes never worked, for any country, and everywhere it was experienced, it failed. But why countries like United Kingdom, Canada, like they're following the same path, like bringing digital IDs, or they're trying to control people. They're trying to become more and more like socialized countries. Like, where is this coming from? What's the hidden agenda? Did you get my question?
I think that's from Masha with regard to her experience at the fall of the Soviet Union. I think that was the question.
Well, I thought I'm going to answer after you, but I'm ready with my
You're
answer.
ready? Okay, good for you. Okay,
I
thank you.
have 2 points that I want to make.
Okay.
First of all, I think the historical experience of the Russian people and the Iranian people are very different, because there is no history of freedom in Russia. There was,
It's okay. I'm just.
Oh, okay.
I just put in
He's
your
correcting.
spotlight.
Before the Bolshevik Revolution in 1917, there was the Tsar, and there was no freedoms. It was a pretty totalitarian regime, and then it got worse. So there is no understanding and experience of operating as a free society. And it had its toll, because people knew that it's bad in the Soviet Union, but they didn't really have memories, which I think the Iranian people have the memories, and like the collective memory, maybe even the younger people who were born in the regime, but still like it goes through generations. So that's why possibly, I'm speculating here, but possibly this is why they're fighting so much harder and they're willing to sacrifice more for the freedom. And another another factor that I want to mention that would be important going forward, when freedom did happen, so it was more of a decade or even decade and a half, when it was, even in the early 2000s, it was already getting a little oppressive, but only few people would notice. It was mostly okay for most people. I think people kind of concluded, okay, we fought for freedom, we won, now we have freedom and we are done, and we can just go and enjoy life. And like in the beginning of 2000s, for example, the economy got better for many people, so they did their creative work and they went to travel, and like they built new progressive businesses and whatnot, and enjoyed life and weren't paying attention. And quoting someone who said that democracy is like hygiene, like brushing your teeth. You have to do it every day. So that's, and you can see this trend everywhere. For example, in Canada, we had such great life for quite some time, and people stopped paying attention. When you stop paying it, when good people raise their kids, build their careers and travel and like do their hobbies, bad people come into power and ruin it for all of us. So that's the main conclusion. I really hope and pray that this year the regime will fall, maybe this month even. It's 28, so okay.
We are hoping every single day it
But
happens.
years and years after that, it's really important that the work just starts there. And I think that's the main message, basically.
That's extremely important. Like, this is like democracy is like brushing your teeth. It's like it must be like protecting your freedom, protecting democracy. It must be like a daily job for every single person after fall of Islamic Republic. And as you mentioned, we have a very good memories from pre-revolution in Iran. We had a very modern constitutional monarchy. We had independent judiciary, and then we had the parliament. We had the monarch institution, and they somehow come together and then check and balance each other. And it was different. Like, the whole system was made for Iranian. Every country is different. It was working for Iranian. The growth of Iranian economy was the highest, like almost 12%. And like every Iranian started like Pahlavi dynasty, when they started, it was like ashes, was nothing, absolutely nothing, and they built the country. So every Iranian was proud of that country, and everybody dreamed to go turn back time and get back to those time and then start all over again.
This is an important point that I think you need to keep reminding your people about. So culture matters and history matters. So Persia was one of the first empires in the world, and Cyrus Great made it happen. In fact, if you look into the history of Cyrus the Great, he actually started the human rights movement with what was called the Cyrus Cylinder, the Cyrus Edict, which basically said that there would be freedom of religion and freedom of culture. So you know what? the Jewish people know this, that if it hadn't been for Cyrus the Great freeing us from the Babylonians, there might not be a Jewish people today. That's a really important point. So in other words, and that's a historical point to be made. And this is what brings us together. You know, when I gave that speech 3-4 weeks ago, I said, your pain is our pain. We're fighting not only the same enemy, but we're fighting for the same values. So when people worry about, Iran's going to be Syria or Iran's going to be Iraq, no, because the culture is different. The Iranian people already know how to organize. They know how to build. And so when they have their freedom, they're going to flourish. If you looked at the quality of the rallies here in Canada, the Iranian rallies, they're so organized. The people are so polite and respectful, and it's almost a joyful. Though we're crying out for the people who have been murdered in Iran, there's this kind of like agency that's finally been given to the Iranian people because they've been denied they've been denied their agency for 47 years. And I'll never forget the image of this white-haired woman bleeding from the mouth. She's not young. She's an older woman and saying, I am not afraid. I am not afraid. I have been dead for 47 years. That's just so moving. And it's the spirit of the people coming through her. And so if you go back in Israeli history and starting in 1948, the Jews came back from the Shoah, from the annihilation in Europe. And what held us together and what made us so prosperous was our culture. And we share that with the Iranian people, right? In other words, you have that drive to want to succeed and want to build. So I have no doubt that as soon as you get your freedom, this is the comment people are making, King Reza Pahlavi won't know what he's doing, etc. People should go online. People should learn his Iranian Prosperity Project. It's well written. It's a group effort. He's got a lot of expertise behind him. That's what the Iranian diaspora needs to be focusing on right now. How is the diaspora going to help?
That's right.
Iran to rebuild? Because I'll tell you this: Israel wouldn't be what Israel is today without the Jewish
and the number of
educated
people, Iranian educated people living outside of Iran, the number of smart educated people inside, there's a lot of potential for Iran, and considering all the resources Iran has and the rich culture that Iranian have, the peaceful culture that Iranian have, I'm going to just tell you it's a huge potential, and in a matter of a decade Iran can get rebuilt. And a lot of us, we are confident. And Iranians, and one thing that we are sharing, the Jewish community and Iranian community, they are very patriotic person. At the same time, we're very peaceful. We love each other. We love our neighbors. But at the same time, we are very patriotic people. Something that Canadians, they don't understand. If we call them I'm nationalist, they say, oh, whoa, what's going on? But they don't understand it's something positive. That's a drive that you want to build your country. This is a drive that you want to help each other in your country. It's something very, very positive. And that's a drive that you want to tolerate every ethnicity, every group with different religion, because you are Iranian in the first place. And as you mentioned, there is a huge potential, and Iranians are hopeful. Upon fall of this regime, the future is bright. And I mean, we are all confident. We are all confident about that, because we have Iran is an ancient country, as you mentioned, 2,500-year country, and then we have we experienced down the road, and then we reached our constitutional monarchy, and we have a lot of expertise inside and outside of Iran. So there is a lot to rely on, and there is a lot so we can build our country based off of those. Thank you very much, Stefan. That was a good point.
Well,
Yeah.
just know that all the Israelis and all the Jews all around the world can't wait for your success, and we're going to be supporting you guys with technology and friendship and love. And we're, I want to visit. You talk about Isfahan. I've wanted to visit Isfahan for a very long time. Tehran, Isfahan, Hamadan. What is it? Mashhad, Shiraz. My neighbors are Shirazians. So yeah, it's a great people. It's a rich culture, and it's been totally suppressed. You'd never know
You
of all the
never know.
riches that are going to be unlocked as soon as the people are free. And also if you look at the geography, there's Israel on the, let's just say, the left side, and Iran on the right side, and in between Syria and Iraq. I think there's going to be a sweep. We could bring great values to the whole region.
Absolutely.
But we have to get rid of the fanatics and
Fanatics, first of all.
and the jihadist doctrines, etc., and the terrorists. They have to go. There'll never be peace as long as they're there. They have to be sidelined.
So, Masha, do you think they will ever go, this terrorist?
Well,
What's
absolutely. The question is only when and at what price. And I would like to expand on something that you said.
okay?
Mentioned the word nationalism, and
Mhm.
so nationalism got it a very bad name after World War II because that was nationalism done horribly.
That's right.
But just in general, healthy nationalism is a good thing because it's caring for your country and
Caring
wanting
for your country.
it
Yeah.
not at the expense of others. But an important distinction to make is that both Islamism and socialism, these are globalist movement, because like Islamism openly wants to take over the entire world. That's their open mission statement. Socialism is a little bit more obscure about that, but you can't really build an isolated socialism because, well, people look across the border and see that capitalism kind of works better. So you can only really have socialism and communism if it's everywhere. So that's a distinction that not a lot of people think about. So this green-red alliance is anti-nationalist in a bad way. That's why healthy nationalism is actually mandatory to oppose this alliance of socialists and Islamists. So I think
That's so true. That's so true. Like one of the things that I really become surprised, even the right-wing parties in Canada, they say, "Oh, you're accusing me of being a nationalist," and I ask them, like, "What's wrong with like you cannot because the Germany Nazi they did something horribly wrong, and they use nationalism as an ideology to further their evil agenda." Doesn't mean that it's a bad thing. Like to me, as an Iranian being nationalist is to love your country, to love each other, to tolerate each other, to take the whole country in the first place before your own profit, before your own like take the whole country, the whole city before your own agenda. Like think about as a group. It's to us. It's a very loving term. Like I'm proud to be like a nationalist, but somehow the term kind of gets different interpretation in different different countries. That was one of my cultural shock when I came here.
it is a confusing term and people interpret it differently. And if you go and look around, you do find even Canadian nationalists, for example, that do it the way that I don't like, that say that all people of color, basically all non-Anglo-Saxon
That's true.
people need to go. So that's a nationalism that I don't subscribe to.
Yeah.
So you can do, like any other thing as well, you can do nationalism in a bad way. But some portion of healthy nationalism is, I think, mandatory for a country. And
Yeah. Yeah. That's how Israel was built. That's how Israel is standing strong and united together. Am I right, Stefan? You're
Well, yeah. I'm just going to make the point that so people have citizenship, but your citizenship can be taken away from you. Nothing can take your Iranianness from you. Nothing can take our Jewishness from us. That's part of our DNA. So the nation of Jews, the nation of Israel, there's a bonding there. There's a collective identity, and
That's what I'm talking about.
And it's the same with your people. You know, it's a collective identity that cannot be taken from you. So when we talk about nationalism, I mean, the Nazi Germans, they were quite clever in that they put nationalism along with socialism in their political party. So it was the Nationalist Socialist Workers' Party of Germany. That was the German Workers' Party. So they basically covered the political gamut from the right to the left. And so no one could complain that they were leftists or that they were rightists on the right. So they were clever in that regard. And they created a mythos around that, which was based on certain values of purity that same in Islam. Islam is about purity, and the infidel, the word infidelity means something impure. So that's why when you get a vision of a nation that's counterproductive to other nations, then you lose the value systems that I don't like this word, but in this particular context, it works. That's inclusive of everybody else. In other words, it doesn't destroy others. You know, so the Jewish people always see themselves as a light unto the other nations. It's not trying to destroy all the other nations. We just basically want to be left alone.
Yeah. Like to us, it means like nationalism to us, it means like put the nation's interests above your group or your personal interests. That's what it means. And then like Iranian nationalists, and they are very tolerant because we have like 400 dialogues speaking in Iran. They have a lot of people, and they coming us together, like the love for this homeland, like the whole picture, and it makes Iranian very tolerant to each other. And more importantly, Iran was attacked by Islamists 1400 years ago. They tried to colonize us. They tried to change our culture. They tried to change our language. Iran is the only country that never surrendered. I was in Morocco. It was funny. And Moroccan people, they said, oh, we are not Arab. We just speak Arabs. And I say, yeah, like Iranians, we never surrendered. We never decided to leave our identity or leave. And that's kind of helped us to stay like as Iranian. That's why we are proud of it. And that's what we look at it as a very positive thing. Just wanted to mention that. Okay, Masha, I want to get back to you. We have like around like 10 minutes. I want to give you like 5 minutes to speak with Iranian people. Tell me how you feel about it. Just it's for you. It's just anything that's coming to your mind, anything you want to share.
I watched the movie that Stephen mentioned earlier. I watched it today because that 24-minute movie from the morgue. It is heartbreaking. I think it's been really hard to think about something else. And I keep thinking, so I already mentioned the big march that was in Vancouver. So all the people who were passing, and I was filming. And then suddenly the numbers clicked for me. So let's say this is 20,000 people. So like that's comparable numbers, because as a human being, it's really hard to imagine like when the numbers go so high, the 20,000, 40,000, like that's a lot of people. It's really hard to imagine. And I remember after October 7, my entire social media feed, and I haven't lived in Israel for over 10 years, so I don't have a lot of family there. But my entire social media was full of people writing about the people they lost, the people in their family, their colleagues, their children's friends. Like everyone knows someone, many people who were affected, who were either murdered or kidnapped or injured or were fighting. And I think it is similar to for the Iranian people, that everyone knows someone that was affected. And in a way, what's going on in Iran is like an October 7, where the IDF hasn't arrived, because it took IDF a long time to come to some of the places where the massacres were going, but they did come towards the end of the day. And there is no idea for the Iranian people. and we will only be learning the scale and the horrors that are going on there right now. So I don't. Sorry, you said I should talk to the Iranian people, and I'm not telling
No,
them
that's
anything I
very
don't
good.
already know.
No.
But I'd like, it's really hard to think of something else, and I'm really mad and disappointed at the media in the West. I think short of the actual people who are doing the murder, all the international organizations and the UN and the Red Cross. I checked actually in the very first days of the massacre. I checked Doctors Without Borders and Red Cross, and none of them posted.
None of them.
People who were just bombarding, like from the very first day, even before the IDF went into Gaza after October 7th, they were bombarding like genocide in Gaza, and there is no electricity, no food, and there is so many people dead. They're silent. No one is talking, and all of them have blood on their hands. So, like, it's infuriating. It's shocking because I don't know. It's really hard for me to wrap my head.
Absolutely. You see, it's called corruption. They are all corrupted. None of these NGOs, organization, they all have been corrupted with this bloody money. Like they have. You're right. Absolutely.
I know, but it is still hard for me to comprehend. Like, I'm not naive. I wasn't born.
Amnesty, international amnesty. They are supposed to stand.
Horrible, like I know that, but I don't know. Like, there is no amount of money that you can offer me where I would go and lie and say praise the Islamic Republic, because I have children and they are gonna live in the world that we create, and it's our responsibility to fight and fix it. So like I'm not an expert on the internal nuances of the Iranian society and politics and whatnot, but I can tell evil when I see it, and I will be calling it out as much as I can.
You should. I think this is all of us responsibility. We have to call it out. We're gonna let them know that whatever you guys are doing, it's never gonna go unnoticed. So that's important.
And just one last thing before I pass it to Stephen. So sorry, I talk too much. I want to say that I think so. Jewish people, I find they are so busy surviving that we are kind of self-centered and focused on us, at least many of us. So, like I said, many of my Israeli friends, and myself included, we didn't know that the Iranian people support us. So we learned that after October 7th. But I think that now, from what I see, people in Israel are so much more aware, like during these 2 years after October 7th, because everyone saw the Iranian flags around the world supporting the Israeli people. And there are some very important, like, Iranian activists. We have Salman Sima here in Canada. We have Niak, I'm not sure how to pronounce his last name, in London, the Iranian activist, I forget, and many others, of course. So we are so grateful and a lot more aware of what's going on.
I appreciate that. Well, I want to add one thing to you. I'm very grateful to the Shah of Iran, Reza Shah II. He bravely traveled to Israel. He's the most important official. He went to Israel. He prayed by the temple, and so a lot of Iranians, we knew deep down the Islamic Republic is our enemy. Israel and United States, they are not our enemy. They are actually potentially our friend. We have a lot more similarity to Israel and United States, to the West, to like than like what Islamic Republic forced us to be. So he bravely traveled. He met with Netanyahu, and I want to tell you one thing. Like, since I was a kid going to elementary school, they made us every morning to chant "Death to Israel, Death to America." Yep. They wanted to create a generation of hate, but they felt every step. Iranian people, we fought back every single day. If you look at them, they try to make us like some sort of communist country that every person hates Israel. But the more they try to create the generation of hate, we became the generation of love, the generation of bravery, and we developed a lot more love and sympathy, because we knew this Islamic Republic is evil. If this evil hates something, that thing must be very good and nice thing, so it must be bright. So that's one, like I was like growing up in Iran, that's how I felt. And then Reza Shah II, he traveled to Israel, and then it was like, to us, we look at it as like, thank you so much for doing this. Thank you so much for validating our feeling that we know Israel and United States, they are not our enemies, they're actually our friends. Yeah.
One more sentence. I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Stephen. I want to say this is very unique. I really applaud the Iranian people for that, because it is really hard to oppose this kind of indoctrination that's ongoing for so long, like decades. So it's several generations that grew up and actually resist that and not become hateful. I think it's very unique. So really, hats off and thank you.
Absolutely, that's Iranian culture. So they tried every single day to make us something that we were not, but at the end of the day, that Iranian stays within us, because that's a very rich culture and a very peace-loving culture. Stefan, let's finish with you.
Well, lots of good things that were just said. I would say everyone needs to get out on an individual level. You know, people were pointing to how bad governments now are so silent, how the media is so silent. But you know what? We have the internet now. Anyone who wants to know the truth is a button or two away from knowing the truth. And you can find the truth. It's out there and it's very accessible. So, you know, we talk to individuals on our daily life, and they don't know about the Iranian history, and they don't know about the Arab Muslim jihadist mentality. We need to get out and educate people. This narrative, what's going on in Iran right now, is shaping this century. This is probably the most important development in history that has repercussions around the world. And as I said earlier, this is really involving all of us. Every country, you see how it's going to impact the United States and their immigration policies, and Canada's immigration policies, et cetera, et cetera. So if we don't see this as one thing happening between civilizations, we're going to put ourselves at a disadvantage. And every individual has the obligation to defend Western values. And I do believe it comes down to those Western values of respect for one another, human rights, women's rights, gay rights, all these different kinds of respect for one another, so we can cohabitate on a very on a shrinking planet. We're just so close to one another. So this isn't something that's far away. It's right here. It's part of us. So that's what I would say. You're fighting the good fight. We're so proud of you. Just keep going. Keep going. You know, I'm so pleased that your leader, King Reza Pahlavi,
Reza Shah II.
Reza Shah II, you know, he was so brave in the press conference when he said, look, the other countries are not coming to our defense right away, but with or without them, we will be victorious. We will fight. This is the last battle. And I'm just so moved by it. I'm consumed by this.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think you guys heard the voice of people chanting Javid Shah a lot, right?
Yep.
And you guys know what does it mean, right?
Yes.
Okay, there you go.
Call for the king to come back.
Yeah, exactly. Iran calls for the king to come back. Yeah, we're fed up with the whole thing. We want the king. Okay, there you go. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you for having.
Absolutely. Yeah. So
We're
I hope.
with you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Hopefully next time we come together and celebrate and discuss.
Absolutely. I sure hope so. Very soon. Very soon. You take care.
Thank you.
Be well.
سر همبندی، حق بازی، یه چند وقتی انسان میتواند یک کاری رو پیش ببرد، ولی این کار دائمی نمیتواند باشد. چنته هر کسی که تو خالی باشد بالاخره معلوم میشه.